And what is going on, guys? This is the Club of the Man 1993 coming at you for the 23rd edition of this retro Royal Rumble match recap and review series as we now venture in to the final decade of the present day Royal Rumble matches. We are now on the 2010 Royal Rumble match. Now, I've mentioned several times before how me being a late bloomer fan, the first Royal Rumble match I ever watched was 2013. But the earliest before I had done the series, the earliest match I believe I ever watched was the 2005 Royal Rumble match, which I knew somewhat the history of over the next couple. But I'd say 2010 would be the first one that I probably know the strongest, like really strong. I know what really happened and went down in this match pretty well. That I could pretty much talk about it, have an interesting review as well and discussion for the viewers as well for this review. Now, as far as this Royal Rumble match goes, despite the fact that a lot of fans do say this match wasn't as good as others because it didn't really it didn't really utilize any young stars other than CM Punk, I'd say, because he was doing the straight edge stuff since he was just coming off his second and third world title runs, which were his two bests at the time. The one in 2008 wasn't quite as good with the straight edge stuff. Besides him, there really wasn't another upcoming young talent that really, stood out in this match. However, though, the veterans they had in this match, they were used very well as far as the storytelling goes, which to me makes this one of the more underrated Royal Rumble matches, I'd say, because again, despite nobody fresh being used, the storytelling was still well done in this match as well, as it was a little emotional due to the biggest story going on in this Royal Rumble match as well. This was the last Royal Rumble, though, for several superstars. Well, some for a while, as it was Batista's last Rumble until he came back briefly in 2014, Matt Hardy's until he came back until 2017 will be in this year's Royal Rumble match. Shelton Benjamin, who I believe, could be in this year's Royal Rumble match. I'm not sure if he will or not, but either way, this is his last one before he left the company for a time being. There was one other superstar I don't want to mention yet who it is. Until 2016, this was Triple H's last Royal Rumble match also, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's what it was because this was the time where Triple H was more so, transitioning into, his corporate role and more of a part-timer because, after this WrestleMania he went on to feud with Sheamus. And in 2011, 2012, he feuded with The Undertaker. Mainly. So there was him as well. But yeah, I mean, that's much to really say about the background for this match. Let's get right into it. It took place on January 31st, 2010 at the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. As always, the stipulation was #1 contendership at WrestleMania. So the winner gets to pick whichever title they want to the challenge for at WrestleMania. The number 1 and 2 entrants were Dolph Ziggler and Evan Bourne. If you don't remember Evan Bourne, he was briefly a tag team with Kofi Kingston, as they were called Team Air Boom. They were together. They start off numbers 1 and 2. Ziggler was on SmackDown and Bourne was on Raw at this time. Number 3 from SmackDown was CM Punk. And as I said before, CM Punk was probably the only young star that really had a debut. Well, this was not This wasn't his debut. I think this was his, let me see. He was in the 2007, 8. I think it was in 2007, 8, 9. His third or fourth Royal Rumble match this was. But this was probably where CM Punk was really seasoning out as well as a heel with the straight edge society, as I said before. He will eliminate both Bourne and Ziggler, then get on the mic and just start pretty much, trashing each person as they came into the ring, just trying to get them to pledge to the straight edge society. He was also ringside with Serena Deeb, who, if you don't remember her, she was actually in the Mae Young Classic this past summer. She was at ringside with him. But he eliminated Bourne and Ziggler and gets on the microphone as he keeps trying to get the next few people to pledge the straight edge. Number 4 from SmackDown from Crime Time was JTG, but of course he didn't last long. He got eliminated by Punk. Number 5 from SmackDown was the Great Khali. Which once again, as you always know, I just do not care for the Great Khali at all. He just tortured Punk for a few minutes until the number 6 entrant came out from SmackDown for the third time. But only the second person to do this because China was in the Royal Rumble match twice. But for the third time, the Royal Rumble match features a women's wrestler as Beth Phoenix came out. The Glamazon came out, who's now a WWE Hall of Famer. She came out and she got face to face with the Great Khali, who he just like set her up on the apron and pretty much told her just to get out of here. Now the Great Khali, of course, was the Punjabi Playboy at this time, just a terrible gimmick to make just a terrible wrestler as well, not entertaining as well. So how does Beth Phoenix get out of this predicament? She pulls Khali in and starts kissing him and pulls him out of the match. He gets eliminated. How nice. Phoenix and Punk, though, would get some offense on each other a little bit, and Punk would go as far as hitting the GTS on Beth Phoenix. Now, it was a little bit awkward about this, though, as I believe during this time, Punk and Phoenix were actually going out. They didn't last, of course, as Phoenix would go on to marry Edge, as he was also they gave him a little bit of a standing ovation at the Hall of Fame ceremony when Beth was making her speech, and Punk went on to marry AJ Lee, as we all know. But that was that. But while she was being eliminated by Punk, number 7 was Zack Ryder, who I didn't know was on ECW. This was also, I've mentioned before, the last year of the ECW WWE brand, which that brand just sucked. Later this year, we had that brand dropped, and that's when they started doing the NXT reality shows, and this will lead to the Nexus debuting later on this year on June 7th, 2010. Zack Ryder came out, and again he wouldn't pledge to straight edge, so Punk eliminated him. Number 8 from Raw, we had Triple H. Then number 9 was this guy's first Royal Rumble match, which also this guy only wasn't in that many Royal Rumble matches. Drew McIntyre, though, aka the Chosen One. He came in though right after Triple H at number 9. Triple H would then eliminate Punk from the match. It would have been nice to see Punk last a little bit longer, but he was in there for about 10 minutes, got 5 eliminations, still heating him up a little bit as a young upcoming star. But yeah, McIntyre on SmackDown. Number 10 was Ted DiBiase Jr., which this was around the time also where, Legacy was starting to, crack as well and slowly tease their split as they would have a triple threat match at Wrestlemania. But, things were still all right between Rhodes and DiBiase until WrestleMania, where they finally imploded as well because they were just solely targeting Randy Orton. But DiBiase was on Raw as number 10. Number 11 from SmackDown was John Morrison. Also from SmackDown, number 12 was Kane, which every time Kane comes up, they always mention that great show he had in the 2001 Royal Rumble match. But can I ask this question, though? Besides that Royal Rumble match, when else has Kane really had a great match? He's a great character, wrestler, but I feel like, for years, in the late 2000s, around this time, he was just so directionalist, honestly. And it just, every time they just hyped it up, it's like, okay, but what else has he really done? So, I don't want to say Kane's very overrated. He is a Hall of Famer, definitely a future Hall of Famer, but I feel like he's not as big of a deal as people make it seem like he is. No offense, but don't want to be hating on Kane. But if you come out at number 12... number 13 was Cody Rhodes, who was on Raw, and again, he was still part of Legacy at this time. Number 14 from Raw was supposed to be MVP, but he was currently feuding with The Miz for the United States Championship, and before he can get into the ring, The Miz came out and attacked MVP from behind, so he wasn't able to get into the ring at that time. Number 15 from Raw was Carlito, which I think this was also Carlito's last Royal Rumble match as well. But he came out at number 15. Number 16 from Raw was The Miz. But when The Miz got to the ring, MVP came out and he attacked The Miz. They started brawling, and then MVP would eliminate both The Miz and himself from the match. It would continue the brawl outside as they would have another couple matches or so for the U.S. title. From SmackDown, number 17 was Matt Hardy. Jeff Hardy had already left after his feud with CM Punk shortly after SummerSlam 2009. But Matt Hardy stuck around until he left sometime during 2010, and then they would return it. Both him and Jeff would return at WrestleMania 33. But he came out number 17, only lasted 20 seconds. Kane eliminates him, that's it. Now, number 18. This was the man he was the biggest story of this Royal Rumble match. Number 18 from Raw was the showstopper, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels' destiny was he had just had that phenomenal match, that perfect, probably the greatest match in the history of wrestling. at WrestleMania 25. They won the Slammy Award for being the best match of the year. So he challenged um, the Undertaker to a match at WrestleMania one more time. He's like, I know I can beat you. And then Taker, turned it down. Taker was now the World Heavyweight Champion as he did defeat Rey Mysterio. They had a pretty good veteran match on this show as well. Um, so Shawn Michaels knows that what he has to do, he has to enter the Royal Rumble, and when he wins the Royal Rumble match, he will challenge the Undertaker for the title at WrestleMania 26. So he goes into the match, and him and Triple H, were just pulling out the stops at D-Generation X. Triple H would eliminate Kane. HBK would eliminate Carlito. He would eliminate Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. He would also eliminate John Morrison, and then he would team up with Triple H to eliminate Drew McIntyre. So just like that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eliminations. It's down to just HBK and Triple H. When number 19 from Raw also was John Cena. He came out at number 19, just had a brief stare down with him and D-Generation X. But then HBK, again, showing that, how badly he wanted that match against The Undertaker, super kicked Triple H and eliminated him from the match. That just shows how badly he wanted that match. He would go as far as eliminating his own best friend. Number 20 was Shelton Benjamin. He was on ECW at the time, but he only lasted like 48 seconds, and he was eliminated by Cena. Not Cena. He was eliminated by Cena. And again, this will be his last Royal match, and then it could have been his last one, but may not be if he is in this year's Royal Rumble match at the 2018 Royal Rumble. He is teaming up with Chad Gable to face the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Titles in the 2003 Falls match. But yeah, this is his last year at WWE for a while. Number 21 was Yoshitatsu. He was on ECW as well, but he didn't last long as Cena eliminated him. Number 22 from Raw was The Big Show, followed by Mark Henry. Number 23. Number 24 from Raw was Chris Masters, but he didn't last long as The Big Show eliminated him. Number 25 from SmackDown, R-Truth. I don't know if they're trying to give R-Truth a little bit of a push here. I know he did get that heel run in 2011, but he came in, and from behind, he lifted both Big Show and Mark Henry out of the ring, eliminating both. So once again, despite them saying Mark Henry's a favorite to win, Mark Henry doesn't eliminate anybody, and he's out of this Royal Rumble match. Number 26 from Raw, Jack Swagger, which 2010 was the year that Jack Swagger won. Well, there was 3 Money in the Bank contracts in 2010. Starting to blow my nose for a second. But because they had the WrestleMania contract, and then they had the actual Money in the Bank pay-per-view where there was a SmackDown and a World Heavyweight Championship and a WWE Championship. Well, even though the brand split was still going on around this time, but he would win the briefcase at WrestleMania 26. He later cashed in on Chris Jericho to become the World Heavyweight Champion. Just a really bland and lackluster run. He got some offense in, but again, he never really became that big of a shot in WWE. Number 27, also from Raw, was Kofi Kingston, who had debuted sometime in 2009, I believe. Yeah. He would eliminate Jack Swagger. He would also eliminate R-Truth with some nice little, scissors, grab to his head. They actually would also be tag team champions also sometime in 2011 because they faced Team Hell No when Team Hell No first won the tag titles. Number 28 was Chris Jericho, who was now on SmackDown. Cena would eliminate Kingston with an AA. Number 29, there was also a surprise. This is the only really surprise entry I think we got in this Royal Rumble match. From SmackDown, making a big return as he was not supposed to come back till March or even maybe as late as next summer due to an Achilles injury. Edge. Edge made a shocking return, and this I believe also was Edge's last Royal Rumble match because in 2011 he was the World Heavyweight Champion, and when he faced Del Rio at WrestleMania 27 before he had to retire due to injury, but Edge made a surprise return. It went right after Chris Jericho because Jericho and Edge had just won the tag titles right before Edge got injured with the Achilles tendon, and he took offense to Jericho taking his Slammy Award and saying, I'd like to thank the long-forgotten Edge for leading me to this. So Edge came back showing that he wasn't an afterthought, and he would challenge Chris Jericho, who would win the World Heavyweight Championship out of the Elimination Chamber, thanks to certain actions happening because of someone who didn't win in this Royal Rumble match. But yeah, Edge returned. He started spearing everybody. He slowly made sure to target Chris Jericho first. I am sorry, I just knocked something off my desk. That was kind of freaky. But he was Chris Jericho, and he would eliminate him. And then number 30 was Batista. So the final four, making it already, was Michaels, Cena, Edge, and Batista. They gave these four a lot of time towards the end of the match. Unfortunately, though, the sad part came when HBK was super kicking everybody. He was on the apron with Edge. He threw a super kick on Edge, but he threw it in a way that Edge got knocked back into the ring. But then Batista, who was now a heel, would come out of nowhere, and he would push Michaels off the ropes to eliminate Shawn Michaels. And Shawn Michaels was heartbroken. He was upset. He sold it very well like a pro, because he was destined to get that rematch against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26, but he knew now that he couldn't get the match. He was begging just for one more chance. He got back into the ring hoping they would give him an exception, and he kept saying, "Shawn, get out of the ring." He went as far as super kicking referee Charles Robinson, and then just freaking out, just getting upset. He just slowly walked out, and he was just devastated because Shawn Michaels did not get to win and have the option to face The Undertaker at that time, though, for WrestleMania 26. So he'd be eliminated, and then it'll come down to just Batista, Edge, and Cena. But then Batista would then get eliminated by Cena, and then Cena and Edge briefly went at it before Edge eliminated John Cena. So Cena, for the first time since 2005, was very rare to see Cena lose clean, but he lost his Rumble match clean, getting eliminated by Edge at the end. And Edge, making a surprise return, wins the Royal Rumble match. He would go on to again challenge Chris Jericho for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 26. After Jericho won the title in the Elimination Chamber, after Shawn Michaels interfered in that match to cost the Undertaker the title, to have Undertaker just want to face Michaels to get his revenge at WrestleMania, and that was what was set up for the main event of WrestleMania 26, the career versus streak match. Now, it wasn't quite as good as their match at WrestleMania 25, in my opinion, but it was still just a great story told, and that story alone, and Edge's return, Punk doing his gig and whatnot, but those great veteran storytelling by those veteran wrestlers, especially the Shawn Michaels story, was to me what made this Rumble match a little more underrated, I feel, in my opinion. So Edge wins this Royal Rumble. As far as the numbers go, let me see here. We had Dolph Ziggler from SmackDown, number 1 with 229, no eliminations. Evan Bourne, number 2 from Raw, 226, no eliminations. CM Punk, number 3 from SmackDown, 1004, 5 eliminations. Next over from SmackDown, JTG, number 4, 25, no eliminations. Number 5 was Great Khali, 139 eliminations. Number 6, Beth Phoenix, 137, 1 elimination. Number 7, Zack Ryder from ECW, 32 seconds eliminations. Number 8 from Raw, Triple H, 1755, 3 eliminations. Number 9, Drew McIntyre from SmackDown, 1443, no eliminations. Number 10, Ted DiBiase from Raw, 1340, no eliminations. Number 11, John Morrison from SmackDown, 1137, no eliminations. Number 12 was Kane, 859, 1 elimination. Number 13, Cody Rhodes from Raw, 854 eliminations. Also from Raw, the next several wrestlers, MVP. Number 14, 7 seconds, 2 eliminations. Carlito, 509 eliminations. The Miz, 17 seconds, eliminations. Number 17 from SmackDown, we have Matt Hardy, 20 seconds, no eliminations. Number 18 from Raw, Shawn Michaels, 25-45, 6 eliminations. Number 19 from Raw, John Cena, 27-11 with 4 eliminations. Number 20 from ECW, Shelton Benjamin, 48 seconds, no eliminations. Number 21, Yoshitatsu from ECW, 29 seconds, no eliminations, which you can see how crappy the ECW people were at this time, which Yoshitatsu would be the final member of ECW to enter the Royal Rumble match. Number 22 from Raw was The Big Show, 504 elimination. 23 was Mark Henry from Raw, 309 no eliminations. Number 24, Chris Masters from Raw, 29 seconds no eliminations. Number 25 from SmackDown was R-Truth, 422 2 eliminations. Number 26 from Raw, Jack Swagger, 206 no eliminations. Number 27 from Raw was Kofi Kingston, 309 2 eliminations. From SmackDown, the last three, first number 28 was Chris Jericho, 224, no eliminations. Number 29, Edge, 737, 2 eliminations. And number 30, Batista, 524, 1 elimination. John Cena was in this Rumble match the longest at 27 minutes and 11 seconds. The most eliminations by Shawn Michaels was 6. And the total duration, this is probably one of the shorter Royal Rumble matches. It only lasted 49 minutes and 24 seconds, which is still all right. The storytelling was still good. And the overall grade, again, despite the fact there really wasn't any young talent that broke out in this match or anything like that, I still like the veteran storytelling as well. Again, Punk had the decent go in this Rumble match, building him up even more as a star. We had the story of Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, Edge's return, whatnot, and a few other little things. Beth Phoenix participating in there as well. So, I mean, again, it's still a bit of a higher grade of this Rumble, but I still think, this Rumble still did a great job telling the story, especially with Shawn Michaels winning this for The Undertaker's that emotional ride as well. So that's why I'm going to give this Royal Rumble match a B+. A B+ for the 2010 Royal Rumble match. What grade would you give this Royal Rumble match? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And be sure as always to click that like and subscribe for content to come to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at TheManAir93. And I'll also be hopefully posting my 2011 Royal Rumble match review also later on tonight as well. So until then, guys, have a great night.